So here basically I am trying to find the co-occurrences, that once occurrence of one item is leading to the occurrence of other items, and this is conditional in dependency but not a causality where I am trying to find out cause and effect. Here I am simply find out that if X is bought, there is a high chance that Y is also bought along with X. So how to find that? And for that purpose, we need to understand some few concepts of or few terminologies. So here we will be discussing about item set, support count, support and confidence. Now given a transaction database, what do you mean by an item set? So an item set is something in which there are one or more items, or it is nothing but a collection of one or more items. So for example, this is an item set with 3 items. So such item sets with various or different number of variables or candidates inside, we can call them as K item sets. So this is 3 item set. So K gives me the number of candidates inside the set. So candidate here means individual values. So here like bread, milk, diaper, beer, eggs, then Coke. These are the candidates, and forming the combination of these candidates, I am getting an item set. So here item set is nothing but a collection of one or more items, and we will call them K item sets depending on the number of items inside that set. The second thing that we need to understand is the support count. Now the support count is something which talks about the frequency or the count of that item set. So for example, in my transaction database, I might say that the support count, which can be denoted with this sign, it is for these 3 candidates like milk, bread and diaper is 2. So if you go through this transaction table, you will find that milk, diaper and beer, sorry, milk, bread and diaper, milk, bread and diaper. Milk, bread and diaper, milk, bread and diaper. So there are 2 transactions where you observe this combination, and therefore the support count is equals to 2. Here suppose I want to find out the support count for bread, only for bread. So in out of 5 transactions, you can see 1, 2, 3 and 4. 4 times it was observed that the customer has bought bread. So support count for bread is 4. So this is how you find out the support count. Next, from support count, you calculate the support. That means the fraction of transactions that contain an item set. So for example, as I said, this transaction or this combination of candidates was observed 2 times in my entire data sample. So support is nothing but the fraction of what this fraction of the item set on the entire data set. So the total transactions are 5. Out of 5 transactions, 2 times we have observed that bread, milk and diaper were bought together. And therefore the support will be 2 by 5. So in this way you can calculate support count and support. Next is we need to know frequent item set. Now in this way you are going to find out the item sets, various combinations of candidates or the item sets which can be K item sets. Now all these item sets, out of all these item sets, some of the item sets can be called as frequent item sets. Now when are we going to call them as frequent item sets? An item set whose support is greater than or equal to minimum threshold. So when I will call an item set a frequent item set when its support is greater than or equal to minimum threshold. So here this minimum threshold is a condition that I put on the item set to call it as a frequent item set. So that is very important for me, right? So what do you mean by this minimum support threshold? That means I want to understand that in my transaction table, what can be the support that is minimally accepted to call it as a frequent item set. I say that out of 5, even if that candidate or that item set is observed 2 times or 3 times, I may call it as a frequent item set. So here for example, if I call it as the minimum support threshold, this is minimum support threshold. That means you are putting some condition or you are giving a value that will be called as, that will be a condition to find out a frequent item set. So say I have number of item sets, and whichever value is 2 or more than 2, those item sets will be called as frequent item sets. So we are going to see this in detail when we'll solve one problem where we'll find out how what is a frequent item set and how to get the item sets in the beginning, and then how to get the support count and the support, and how to cross check against its minimum threshold. Now, once we understood about this, the next thing we have to understand is the association rule. Now, this association rule means the expression of form x derives y, or else x implies y. Or I can say x is related to y. And here both x and y are the item sets. So now we know the definition of item sets, which means collection of one or more items. So here I might say that one item set implies the another item set. For example, in the case of this. So this is x value which implies y. That means when a customer is buying this, there is a chance that he might buy this also. And once we generate such association rules, what we need to understand is we have to evaluate that how strong are these rules. So here first thing is we need to form association rules, and then we have to find out that out of these association rules, which association rules are strong rules or weak rules. Definitely we are looking for some strong rules. Now how will I decide that these association rules or these rules are strong rules? On the basis of some evaluation matrix. And what is this evaluation matrix? It is nothing but to find out its support and confidence. That means how much support and how much confidence is going to tell me about that rule being strong enough or that rule being weak enough. So we know that what is a support? It is a fraction of the transactions that contains both x and y in your overall transaction database. So now next thing that you need to understand is the confidence. That means you have to provide the confidence on that rule, which is nothing but a measure of how often the items in Y appear in the transaction that also contains X. So you need to understand that if I am talking about X and I am saying that implies Y, how much confidence you are providing for this rule, which says that in the transaction, in the items in Y can also be appeared in X. Or indirectly, for example, when I say milk and diaper, or when I say beer, how much confidence you provide that whenever a customer has bought beer, he had also bought milk and diaper together. Right? So that is what we have to find out from the transaction table. So support and confidence, once you have given a minimum support threshold and minimum confidence threshold, you can establish a strong association rule for any X implies Y. That will be termed as the frequent item set in my data set. So for example, milk and diaper implies beer. So when we say support, which is nothing but the fraction. So milk diaper, we know that out of 5 transactions, it was observed 2 times. So how are you going to calculate the confidence, which is nothing but the items in Y appears in transaction that contains X also. So that means you have to get the combination of all these 3 things, because I want to find out such transactions where milk, diaper and beer was bought out of those transactions where milk and diaper were bought. So I have to find out in my entire transaction table how many times milk and diaper were bought together. And from those transactions, how many times when milk and diaper was bought, at the same time beer was also bought. So that is going to give me the confidence level. So here if you see milk and diaper, so milk and diaper, milk and diaper and milk and diaper. So throughout my transaction table, I can see that 3 times it was bought. But from 3 times, if you see 2 times when milk and diaper were bought, the beer was also bought. So the confidence